Welcome to Attainable Green. I'm Jess, and today we're going to be talking about repotting Cattleyas. When it comes to repotting Cattleyas, there are a couple things to keep in mind. You want to make sure that there is a new growth starting and either roots are emerging or just about to emerge. If you have a complex hybrid, it should be fine repotting when there's new growth starting. But if you want to guarantee success, then it's best to have some roots emerging from the base of the growth before initiating a repot. If you have a species, sometimes they can be a little bit finicky when repotting. Bifoliate Cattleyas or Cattleyas with 2 leaves on the cane tend to be a little bit pickier when it comes to repotting, so they don't like to be disturbed when they're not actively growing roots. Today I'm going to be repotting the LC Tokyo Magic crossed with Potnara Martha Clark. This one is a project plant that I got from High Desert Orchids, and last year it put up 3 new growths, and 2 of the growths had sheaths and they bloomed. If a Cattleya is grown from seed, there is a wider range of what the potential flower may look like. For my particular cross, the majority of them tend to be yellow flowers with a red lip, and then there's a smaller portion that have these kind of sunset pinkish tones with the red lip. When I got this plant, it was bursting out of its 2-inch seedling pot, and I potted it up last year into a 4-inch pot. This year, I noticed that I have to repot this plant because 2 new growths are just emerging, and this is kind of the perfect season to do this in the springtime. Probably has a lot of roots because the pot itself is deformed. It's starting to kind of bulge out, and it's very rigid. It doesn't have any compression to the pot itself, so I know this is the time that I should repot this plant and put it in a bigger pot. So the first thing to do is to pull the plant out of the pot. Now, you just don't want to just pull it very harshly because you can break the roots or break other portions of the plant, but I just kind of wiggle the pot a little bit and try to get it a little bit of give. It may take a couple of tries to loosen up the pot so that the plant can come out, but after a while it will definitely remove itself from the pot. This is a plastic pot, so it's a little bit easier to remove, but for a terracotta pot, you can either soak the root ball to loosen it up a little bit or run a butter knife around the edges to pull the roots away from the edge of the pot. As a last resort, you can break the terracotta pot itself and to protect the root system. So after a couple of tries, the plant came out of the pot. And looking at the root system, it is very vigorous. In fact, the entire pot is pretty much covered in roots, and although there is some media, there's not that much. So I am just going to see if I can loosen up any of the media from the bottom of the pot and see if there's any dead roots. Looking at the root system, it is very healthy. Most of the roots are nice and white. There aren't any dead roots or dark brown, blackish roots at all. The interior of the root system is also pretty healthy. I can see a couple of white root tips coming from the bottom peeking out, and so I'm not going to mess with it too much. This is a healthy plant, and the media itself looks fairly good as well. It's not degrading, so I have no need to keep pulling out all the media from the pot. So now that I have the media cleaned up, it's time to put it in the bigger pot. I'm going to put this in a 6-inch plastic pot. I'm going to put a little bit of large bark on the bottom to just increase drainage, and then I'm going to put a mix of large bark, small bark, and perlite. This plant can handle a lot of water, and it takes up a lot of water during its growing season, so it tends to dry out if I have bark that is a little bit too large. I don't want to water this too often, so I want to retain more moisture in the pot, so that's why I'm going with a smaller grade of bark. The larger bark chips are there to kind of give it more aeration, so we have a nice mix of air and moisture within the pot. I want to tap the pot a little bit and push down the media so that we don't have any giant air gaps within the media itself. Since it's a Cattleya, it'll be fine with a little bit of air pockets, but I just want to make sure that the media in the pot stays relatively uniform so that everything is more evenly moist within the pot itself.
I'm happy because it's going to be easier. I'm happy so it's going to be easier.
So after that, the plant is quite snug in its pot. I am just going to set it aside for about a week to just let it acclimate. I'll resume regular watering afterwards, and it should be fine for the growing season. I'm watering this plant about twice a week, and I noticed that the pot dries out almost after the first day. I'm hoping that this new pot will retain more moisture so that I don't have to water it as much during the growing season. During the summertime, I know that on very hot days, I water these Cattleyas about every day, and sometimes twice a day depending on how hot the temperature is and how dry the media has become. So that is how I repot my Cattleyas. This particular plant is very healthy, so I didn't have to cut off any dead roots, and there wasn't much that I had to do by way of repotting. So this one was a fairly easy repot, and I just wanted to share with you what a healthy Cattleya looks like, and hopefully we'll see blooms later in this season from this plant. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, Attainable Green, to follow along on my orchid growing journey. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!